Okay, we are live. ¿Qué tal, amigos? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with this evening's live stream, 7:40 p.m. It is Sunday, the 14th of September. I've said it once, I'll say it again. The months are flying by. The 14th of September already, halfway through the month, nearly. Looking at some of the main stories that have caught my attention in the press here today in Spain. Lots of stories around. We'll look at a few of those. We'll also look at some comments that have been left on the channel by viewers in recent times. And as always, we'll go into the chat section of the live stream and see what is happening there among the viewers. So if you are watching live this evening, say hello. Now, straight into the news, and Spain's election season has kicked off. Next year, we'll see elections in some autonomous communities here in Spain, notably Andalusia and Castilla and Leon. And Pedro Sánchez, of course, is out in force promoting his party's policies. And there's some big news because Spain is to remove another 53,000 illegal holiday lets for youth housing. Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced in Malaga that over 53,000 tourist flats will be struck from Spain's National Rental Register after inspectors uncovered thousands of legal breaches. Properties that applied for the compulsory registration number since the 1st of July but failed to meet requirements will now be redirected to permanent residential use, targeting young people and families. Housing Minister Isabel Rodriguez said the move, enforced through a new digital one-stop window, aims to protect the social function of housing and curb illegal tourist rentals that drive families from their neighbourhoods and distort cities. According to the ministry, Spain is the first EU country with a unified tourist-let register. Andalusia leads in revoked permits, 16,740, followed by the Canary Islands, 8,698, Catalonia, 7,729, and the Valencia region, nearly 7,500. Platforms have been told to remove 53,876 illegal listings. So there we go. As I said, the election campaign has kicked off in places like Andalusia, and the big announcements from the Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez coming thick and fast. 53,000 or more than 53,000, according to the government, illegal tourist rentals that are on the register, the government register, will be scrapped from that register and rediverted. I'll say it again, rediverted into social housing for young people and families. So interesting how the government plans to pull this one off, for lack of a better term. But we'll see what is going to happen here. I can imagine that homeowners or property owners out there that have been notified are worried what will happen to their properties being redirected by the government to this type of housing. So if you've got one of those letters, let us know. But over 53,000 people, as we can see here, are going to be affected by this latest government policy. So the news coming out, or the policies coming out thick and fast from Pedro Sánchez, who every day seems to be crawling closer and closer to the extreme left, because he wants to take the ground that is currently filled by weak political parties like Podemos and Sumar. He wants to claim those voters, and that's why policies like this are coming out. The cycling race in Spain, the national cycling race, the Vuelta de España, bit of a problematic day, I should say, for that race. As we can see here, police have clashed with pro-Palestinian protesters as Vuelta cycling finale descends into chaos. Madrid saw violent scenes during the final stage of the Vuelta a España after pro-Palestinian demonstrators blocked key points such as Gran Via, Callao and Castellana to protest the participation of the Israel Premier Tech Team. National Police charged several groups as cyclists were forced to stop, with some riders confronting protesters and one athlete reportedly pulled from his bike. Earlier, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez expressed respect for the athletes and admiration for the Spanish people who mobilize for just causes like Palestine, a message critics say inflamed tensions. Viral footage shows demonstrators toppling barriers and chanting "Zionists are the terrorists." Winner Jonas Vingegaard was denied his celebratory Madrid finish, while Madrid's mayor condemned violence over sport, and regional leader Isabel Díaz Ayuso accused Sánchez of pouring fuel on the fire. And that is what Sanchez's opponents are accusing him of doing, sticking up for the protesters that have wreaked havoc on the cycle race over the last 2 weeks, protesting at many different points. I think the Basque Country they were protesting. The other day they were protesting in the city of Valladolid. And of course the day the protests hit a whole new level with the race not being able to finish in the capital city here in Spain, Madrid, because protesters and police were clashing. And of course Sánchez coming out earlier in the day and saying that good on the protesters, they're doing the right thing, but also praising the athletes because he wanted to have a foot in each camp there. But the protesters obviously felt that they had the support of the government and went crazy in Madrid this afternoon, stopping that race there, as we saw, descending into chaos, according to that headline. Third piece of news now, and Spain joins new NATO mission to counter Russian drone threat. Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced on Friday that Spain will take part in NATO's new Eastern Sentinel mission to strengthen the alliance's eastern flank after Russian drones entered Allied airspace this week. Putin will not intimidate us, Sánchez declared on social media, confirming that Spanish air assets will join the operation and remain as long as necessary. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte unveiled the initiative in Brussels, explaining it will launch within days and include measures to counter drone incursions. The move follows the most serious incident of the Ukraine war involving NATO territory. Russian drones crossed into Polish airspace on Tuesday night before being shot down by Polish and Allied jets. Spain already contributes to Baltic air policing and currently has 8 Eurofighters deployed in Lithuania as part of NATO's long-standing persistent effort mission. So there we go. The Prime Minister also announcing last week that Spain will join this NATO mission to keep the countries that are very close to Mr. Putin safe from these drone attacks and other things like that as we saw over the last week or so, have escalated over countries like Poland, and also Romania, I think, was the latest country to spot the Russian drones flying over its territory. So NATO on the front foot there, getting Spain's support. Mr. Sánchez again making headlines. He's been a busy man, I'll give him that, over the last few days. And the final piece of news here, foreign-born population drives Spain's growth. Spain's population has surpassed 49 million, fueled largely by immigration, according to provisional second quarter 2025 data from the National Statistics Institute. The number of foreign nationals now stands at 7.05 million, while 42.27 million residents hold Spanish nationality. Of these, 9.69 million were born abroad, compared with 39.63 million born in Spain. INE reports that Spain's total population rose by 119,811 in the quarter, with 95,277 of the increase coming from foreign citizens and only 24,534 from Spanish nationals. Arrivals were led by Colombia, Morocco, Venezuela. A further 18,700 were Spaniards born overseas returning home. Other significant inflows come from Peru, Italy, Argentina, Honduras, Algeria, and Cuba. The statistics highlight that more residents have acquired Spanish nationality than those who keep their original citizenship, underlining immigration's key role in sustaining Spain's demographic growth despite declining births. So there we go, the amount of Spaniards growing by the year. The population here is up because lots of people of course, are claiming Spanish citizenship, foreign-born population driving the growth in this country, aka immigration from places around the world, mainly the South American countries, of course, driving this population growth, because it's very easy for people from South America to get Spanish nationality. They don't have to do a language test, of course. They just rock up, do a citizenship test, which is the easiest thing you've ever seen in your life. Basically, you have to have zero knowledge of what's going on in Spain to not pass that test. Questions are so simple, a child could get half of them. And of course, you only have to get 15 out of 25 correct. So you've got a 10 error correction, 10 error margin there, a 10 question error margin. So 15 out of 25, the easiest questions, and people are just getting their Spanish citizenship handed out like the proverbial, not sure exactly what, but you know what I mean. They're handing them out very, very easily nowadays, the Spanish citizenship. Now, let's have a look at some comments that have been left on the channel in recent times by viewers. We'll have a look at this one here, firstly from Ed McF1, teaching the children to be afraid. Tsunami risk in Madrid, 0. Tsunami risk in Huelva, question mark. Look at Portugal's seismic record and watch out. I guess it will pass the requirements if you teach children how to use a fire extinguisher on a volcano. Thanks, Ed, for the comments there. A little bit skeptical of the announcement last week that the government is going to give disaster prevention courses, or what to do in the case of a disaster hitting Spain, whether it be a tsunami, whether it be a volcano erupting, or whether it be a heavy downpour that floods your town or village. Kids to get that training starting this year, I think, or this school year, I think, 25-26. And a little bit skeptical that kids in Madrid probably won't need to learn about tsunamis. They might need to learn about some other things, but in some parts of the country, different training no doubt will take place, because no point teaching kids in Madrid about volcanoes either, because it's not going to happen. But in the Canary Islands, you never know. We saw what happened 5 years ago in one of the Canary Islands, that volcano erupting, and some people obviously unaware of what they needed to do. But the government's stepping in. Don't worry, the Spanish government has a plan to teach the kids. So Ed, a little bit skeptical. The encounter spirit, no, good idea to teach the children for any kind of emergency. So an opposing point of view here from the encounter spirit, on board with the idea that that teaching children about emergencies is a good idea. And I tend to think that the more skills kids pick up, the better they will be prepared in the future. Should something like this happen, of course, you want to live your life hoping that a disaster is not going to happen to you, and the chances of it happening to you, again, depending on where you are in the world. If you're living in Central America, you probably need to be taking some type of training. If you're living in some parts of Spain where these risks are, you might need some type of training. But again, other parts of the country where perhaps not. I don't know. But the Spanish government getting ready for, as they said the other day, the climate change that's going to affect Spain enormously, hence the children being trained. Thanks, Encounter Spirit. Another one here from Neil. Teaching children about how to deal with disasters is great if it's age appropriate. However, what I want to know is who is going to teach the adults who should be guiding children what to do in a disaster situation. Thanks, Neil. Again, asking the questions there. Who's going to teach the adults who guide the children? Again, I don't have the answers to this, but I'm sure there is a plan in place. The government must have thought of these things before they start rolling these courses out. No doubt there will be third parties involved, government contracts going out. Companies will snap those government contracts up and take over the training. I don't think the teachers themselves will be doing the training. They'll probably receive their own training, but I don't think they'll be doing the children's training. I could be wrong, but normally that is the way things work nowadays. Subcontracted out to the cheapest possible bidder. which is what happens with a lot of government contracts. One here from Tin Can. I remember going to lovely Chinchon on a sunny Sunday in January a few years back, just 30 kilometers to the southwest from Orozco de Tajuña. It was very quiet too, nobody in the streets. Very strange. Thanks, Tin Can, for the comment. Yes, in reply to a video that I did the other day where I went to a village in Spain, or a town in Spain with a small population. You don't see a lot of life. It was the case there in Chinchon a few years back. It might have been during COVID times. That would explain the lack of people roaming the streets. But Chinchon is one of those places that is generally on the list of towns to see in the Madrid region. It would be a mandatory visit for a lot of people that visit Madrid because of the historical value of the town, I imagine. I've been to Chinchon on many an occasion, and if you go there in the morning on a Monday morning, you're not going to see many people. But on the weekends, Sunday, for example, normally it's a busy place, so surprising that you didn't encounter the crowds on your visit there. But thanks for the comment, Tin Can. Another one here from Simon. Regarding trees, in our local village, when they modernised the roads from dirt tracks, they put in pavements and parking spaces. Not much room for the existing trees. Thanks, Simon, for the comment. Yes, the lack of trees in small towns in Spain. The mystery continues. Why don't councils put in trees, get some green areas in these towns? I think the philosophy must be that surrounding the town there's enough trees, so let's not bother inside the town with trees. We don't want people's cars getting sprayed with bird poo and the streets dirtied by the leaves, and then we'll have to hire somebody to clean them up, and probably too complicated for a lot of places to deal with trees. And that's why there's none there. And a lot of the villages, especially in the center of Spain, maybe it's different if you go to villages in the north of the country, I don't know. But here, for example, where I live on the outskirts of Madrid, it's not too bad because the local council has insisted on trees, previously a barren area. But where I went to the other day, Orozco de Tajuña, about 30 minutes from where I am here, not a lot of trees. Maybe a few private trees if you've got a garden, but no, not a lot of council trees going on. It might interfere with the running of the bulls in that town. Probably that could be the reason as well. Get their priorities in order. Bulls first, trees, Another one here from John. It's too hot to come out during the everyone is hiding inside. Thanks, John. I think I understand what you're trying to say there. It's too hot to come outside. Everyone is hiding inside. Well, it wasn't that hot that day. It was only around 24 degrees Celsius, I think. So other people said, oh, everyone's having a siesta. That's why there's no one in the streets. Mate, it was 12 o'clock. It was 12 midday when I got to that town. No one's having a siesta at 12 midday if they have them at all. Believe me, there was just no one there. Kids were at school. The kids that are in that town, people that work, probably from other parts of Madrid, remotely working, probably in their homes, not a lot of people around, or it was the local festivity, so maybe they're too hungover to come out until lunch. Don't know. But believe me, the hot weather wasn't the reason. And the final one here from Laura's. I think if these charming small towns were regularly connected by bus and train, they would come to life. Just my opinion. Thanks, Laura's. Yeah, there are some towns in the Madrid community that are connected by train, and those are the ones that effectively grow. So you go to the towns that are connected with what they call the cercanías trains, like commuter trains, and they grow. Tres Cantos, for example, Colmenar Viejo, they're places that grow quite big populations. The towns that I went to, or the towns that I go to, deliberately I would say, because I want to see these small towns in action, there's no trains going there. For whatever reason, they weren't considered worthy of having a train line. Maybe the geography was too difficult. I've got no idea. Where I live here, there's a train line that connects the town directly with Madrid. Population's gone from 20,000 to 100,000 in a space of 15 or 20 years. So enormous growth. But the place I went to 30 minutes down the road, no train, Hardly any buses. Difficult to live there. If you've got small kids, you don't have a car, what do you do? If you need to go to the hospital, how do you get there? That's the question. You catch a bus somewhere, then another one somewhere else. It can take hours because the public transport is no good, basically. No good. And that's why these towns don't grow at the same rate. They grow because Madrid has a population problem. It's expensive, a lot of people, so they go to these towns. But not in the same amounts as places that are connected on the train lines. And for obvious reasons, people want to be able to get around, to get to their jobs, get to their hospitals, get to their other places that they want to go. That's the reason, I imagine. Now, live chat time. We're going to see what has been bubbling away in the live chat. Before I get there, I need to change the background picture. It's on the screen now. This one was sent in by Goody and Miguel, who on their travels went to Segovia, and we have the aqueduct, the famous landmark in that city there, and of course in the foreground there the restaurants that are very, very popular, especially at weekends in that city, the city of Segovia. About an hour north of Madrid, I would say, the city of Segovia. And if you want a city that has lots of monuments and things to see, you eat fairly well also in that city. If you like that type of food, Segovia is the place for you. Now, if you've got a similar picture to this one by Goody and Miguel, who sent it through yesterday or today, the email address is on the screen now. Spain Speaks. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. spainspeaks@gmail.com. Feel free to send your info through to that email address, or any other information that you want to send my way, whether it's photos, whether it's articles, whether it's things of interest. That is the email address. So feel free. Thanks, guys, for sending this picture through. I'll just deblur the background. Give me a minute there. There we go. So we can see that on the background there, the aqueduct of Segovia. People that have supported the channel in recent times, I'll put that on the screen as well. Thank you very much for that support, whether it's on the super thanks option here on YouTube, super chat during the live streams, people that have bought me a coffee. Johnny just bought me 3 coffees. Thank you very much for that, Johnny, at the Buy Me a Coffee website. I'll put the QR code on the screen as well if anybody wants to buy me a coffee. Patreon supporters, longer term supporters on Patreon, thank you very much for that support. And also the channel members here on YouTube, thank you very much for supporting the channel too. The like icon is on the screen also. If you haven't hit the like icon yet, just below the video you will find it. We're currently at 51 likes. We'll see if we can get up to a decent tally today of likes. So do us a favor and hit the like icon, please. Now, into the live chat I'm going to go. Let me open it up here. Let me see what's bubbling away. I think it'll be another short one today. Let's see. Andrew, the first person I can see here, valued member, evening all. Hope you're having a good weekend. Suddenly very wet. Very cold and windy in London southeast. Thanks for that. Cold and windy in London southeast. What else we got going on here? Let's have a look. We've got Mogsy saying, happy anniversary to you and your wife. Enjoy your dinner with your wife. Don't know who Mogsy's talking to there. Must have been a comment that I haven't seen yet. Thanks for that, Mogsy. John is having a wedding anniversary. Maybe Mogsy try directing it at John. Missing the live tonight, wedding anniversary tomorrow, so out for dinner with the wife. Have a great week. Thanks for that, John, valued member of the channel, of course. Al is in the chat. Buenas tardes, Stu and friends. Checking in from a cool 20 degrees Celsius and cloudy San Diego. Looking forward to sipping some Mao beer in October. Mao beer. In October. So Al will be back. Marianne tuning in from San Diego also, where the weather is cool as we saw. Looking forward to news of events and places in Spain. Thanks, Stuart. Thank you, Marianne, for watching. Sunny is in the chat here too. Hope everyone has had a good weekend. It's been raining nearly all day in Basingstoke. So the weather in the UK has turned. Here, it continues to be sunny and warm. In fact, people have been in the pool in recent times. So good is the weather. Not as hot as it is in Arizona where Gigi is, the Camino expert. 39 degrees Celsius there. Dropping below 40, Gigi. Bit of relief. Although, let's be honest, between 39 and 40, not much difference, is there? Not much. Not much. Casual Gamers, have a good one. Thanks for that, Casual Gamers. Have a good one too. Stephen is watching from rain-soaked North London. Hope everyone has had a good weekend. Thanks for that, Steve. Good to see you in the chat. Back there in the UK after spending quite a bit of time, I think Stephen spends in Torrevieja, where the weather's a bit warmer. So good to see you this evening, Stephen. Janet, valued member in the chat too. We've just returned from a very dismal week in Cornwall. Thank the Lord I'm off to Seville on the 7th of October. Thanks, Janet. Heading to some warmer weather, no doubt. Seville, dismal week in Cornwall. On the British Riviera, is that what it's called? Dismal week. Not much you can do. Not much you can do. Very wet in Suffolk. I think that is. UK, very wet there. Drain hole hammers, thanks for that. Barbara's in the Playa Flamenca. Another day of around 30 degrees there. So this is when the Spain and the rest of Europe weather starts to separate, right? We saw during the summer lots of people in the UK saying the hottest summer ever, the weather's been fantastic, great, wow. And now, come the 14th of September, things start to go downhill pretty quickly. But Spain continues to have the warm days in the majority of the country. Thanks for that. Larry coming in from Tazacorte in La Palma, Canarias. Good to see you, Larry. Regular viewer, of course. What else we got going on here? Amanda's in the chat as well. Can't see the original comment from Amanda. But lots of interaction going on, I will say. Chucky is in the chat from Northern California. The mountains there. Flying into Valencia on Thursday. Can't wait. Visiting Ireland and Italy too. Might just stay in Europe. There we go. Chucky might not go back to the States. Hubba hubba. Freezing up housing is good, but what about jobs, as fewer tourists means less jobs? Not a government priority, I don't think. Jobs, you never really... well, obviously it's going to be a priority, and the government is creating jobs. If you listen to it, don't know what the quality of the jobs is going to be like. But the most important crisis for the government is the housing crisis, and that's where it thinks it's going to get a lot of votes by announcing all of these grandiose projects like seizing 53,000 properties and turning them into housing for young people. I can just imagine how that's going to go. Mr. Gonzalez, yeah, your house is on the illegal rental market, so what we're going to do is force you to turn it into social housing for young people and families in need. Okay? What do you reckon? We'll see how it turns out, as I said. I'm not sure that one's going to go down well, but judging by the applause that Sanchez got when he announced that in his feverish meeting down there in Malaga or somewhere, I think it was, or maybe it was Seville, not sure exactly where it was. The room, a standing ovation he got. Standing ovation. So he's speaking to the converted. Gold geologist, I fail to understand how a bicycle rates correlates to the Palestinian issue. Good question, Gold. The only thing that I can see is that it's visible. Okay, so the protesters are getting visibility. The government, as we know, has taken a very strong anti-Israeli stance in recent times, and the protests come from one sector of the population. A lot of Podemos supporters in the groups. In fact, they were the people leading the protests yesterday, I believe. And the what else was it? The Israeli cycling team, or a team that's sponsored by an Israeli company. I think that's the idea. Israeli Tech, I think it's called, or something like that. And they have been the target of a lot of these protests. So that's the reason, I think. Frank, banning homeowners from renting out to tourists seems very anti-capitalistic and socialist. Oh, wait. It's the Partido Socialista Obrero Español, the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party. Thanks, Frank. You've summed it up there. That's the type of policies that you get. Let's remember that a lot of interventions in the housing market have come from both sides of politics here in Spain, because it's what the governments like to do. They like to control everything with an iron fist if they can. The more they're in your lives, the happier they are. I like to tell people what to do, basically. What else? Ross coming in from Valencia. Beautiful day at the beach. Thanks, Ross. Shangan is in Ballarat, Victoria, not in Shanghai currently. Good to see you, Shangan. Goldologist, very kind of the Russians to provide free of charge target drones for NATO pilots to practice on. Yes, that is what's been going on. The drones coming over the borders. Christine saying every year replying to a comment here, every year the Ministry of Education invites native English, French and German teachers, and every year it's like the Hunger Games for housing. Yes. Those are some of the stories around at the moment as well. Billy saying Europe seems to have a problem protecting its borders. The price of success, I suppose. Thanks, Billy, for the comment. Yep. Difficulty protecting its borders. Great idea, says Jilly here. Not sure what that's referring to, but great idea. Maybe the maybe the housing. Don't know. Hot topic, but on concerning immigration, are Spanish people worried by Islamic takeover from breeding out of the native Spanish? Burton, thanks for that. Yeah, some people are. People that vote for parties like Vox or consider themselves followers of that political party are worried about that. And other people with similar mindsets are also worried about that. Don't think the rest of the population's overly worried about that. Breeding out the Spanish native or the native Spanish. Don't think they're worried about that. In Spain, says Carl, approximately 1.3% of the total housing stock is dedicated to tourist use, according to the data from February 2024. 1.3% of the total housing stock dedicated to tourist use. Could be. Don't know the exact figure, but I'll take your word for it. So blaming tourism for lack of housing is stupid and scapegoat from the real issues, mass migration and bureaucracy and cost-related permits and taxes. Thanks, Carl, for your opinion. Silent Ronin coming in from Cantabria, valued member. Good to see you in the chat. Nitrox, greetings from North Carolina, I imagine, in the States. NC. More like low wages, says John. Spanish people can't afford to buy houses. Some people can't afford to buy houses, John, but I imagine that's the same in the majority of places in the world. Not everybody can afford to buy housing anymore. Janet saying, Burton, if you listen to Stuart's reading on where the immigrants into Spain are from, predominantly they are from South America, so consequently breeding out the native Spanish unlikely. Thanks, Janet. Of course, there is a migration from the north of Africa. Everybody knows that. The majority of people are coming in from countries like South America because they hit the ground running. They don't have to worry about language issues. They don't have to retrain when it comes to language. As I said, they hit the ground running. They can become citizens within 2 years. if they go through all the legal processes well. And but we've seen that the anti-immigration tends to point towards one type of people. And we know that it's not that simple, really, is it? Because there's a lot of things behind those protests, I think. But I'm not going to go into that today. Super chat from Marcus, regular contributor to the channel is Marcus, valued member as well. I'm still in the land of endless yogurt and kebabs. I'm looking forward to returning to tapas and wine later this week. Thanks for that, Marcus. The land of endless yogurt and kebabs. Bronny's in the chat here too. Terrible rain and completely flooded roads near where I live in South Wales, but still showery. Best wishes, Bronny. Thanks, Bronny, for that. Burton, little tortilla, pretty good as I remember from last year. A little bit sloppy, says Burton. Thanks for the comment there, Burton. I haven't tried that one. I try to keep away from the supermarket omelettes if I can. In spite of the video that I did the other day where I tried a couple of supermarket tortillas or omelettes, but I don't think I'll be going back anytime soon or becoming a regular thing. Andrea, Stu, how are you? Good, thanks. Come to Portugal, Andrea says. One day, Andrea, one day I'll get back to Portugal. One day. Shangan saying, looking forward to 19 degrees in Ballarat today, where they're on vacation. 28 in Shanghai, where they currently work. There we go. What else we got going on? Let's have a look here. Maybe the Spanish population will have different feelings when they become taken over by Muslims like we are in the UK. Like I said, Andrew, don't think we'll get to that stage, even though some people would like to think that is the case. And as far as the UK is concerned, don't know. I don't know. Mick, greetings from Liverpool. Enjoyed the tortilla video. There we go. One of the best ones are moist in the middle. Probably impossible to achieve with microwave versions. Possibly, Mick, that is the case. If you want that, you probably have to do it yourself, right? Probably have to do it yourself. Charlie's in the chat, hoping that I'm well. Thanks, Charlie, for that. I am well. Gino and Isabella coming in from Javier, down there on the Mediterranean coast, I should say. Good to see you guys back in Spain. And did they say how young people are? I identify as young. Yeah, I think there's no figures out yet. It's just an announcement that was made today by the Prime Minister Sanchez, Charlie. I'm sure we'll get some more details in the future if this plan ever comes off. I don't know. We'll see. And what's a young person in Spain? I think between 18 and 34, I think is what they classify as young here. So if you fall into that bracket, you should be okay. And Mark is saying here, the figure of 1.3% of housing stock in tourism is probably counts only with that paperwork and doesn't count the huge amount of under-the-radar short-term lets. Yeah, again, not sure on what the figures are there. Somebody put that in the chat a little bit earlier, 1.3% dedicated to tourism housing or tourist housing. So, again, I don't really know. But thanks for the comment there, Marcus. Adoration, greetings from Albacete, living for 20 years in Scotland. Now I'm back with my family. Good to see you back in Spain, obviously contributing to the figures that we saw before there of Spaniards returning home. Pablo de la Cruz coming in from Ocala, Florida, USA. Love the videos. Ironic how many deserted towns and housing crisis. They need less squatters and better transport from outer small towns. Yes, that's it. That requires a lot of investment, I think, Pablo. And it's not easy. Chucky saying Muslims make up 6.5% of the population in the Ukraine, hardly taking over. So I don't know what that's related to. Don't know. In the UK, sorry, in the UK, not the Ukraine. So there we go. Again, it's all about the perceptions, what people think is happening. Obviously, statistically, it's not the case, but there's enough people on the internet nowadays telling you that it is a problem. And it happens here as well. We saw it recently in the Murcia region. So there's something behind it. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah. And the last one here from Colin, a.k.a. Steppenwolf. Hola. Hello. Thanks, Colin. Good to see you. Last one. End of the live stream. Back again on Tuesday with another one. Hope to see you then. Until that day, have a great start to the week. Hasta luego and bye-bye.